Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and tonight I have the privilege of talking to Sean Roberson, the creative director and partner over at Palladium Books. He also still is affiliated with Pinnacle Entertainment Group, and we're going to get into both companies and all of that good stuff. But first, Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. I guess the long story short is that I was an Air Force. I was in the Air Force. I'm an Air Force veteran, and after I got out, I went back to school to study game design and production at the University of Texas in Dallas. And while I was there, I had the fortune, some might say misfortune, but I say fortune, of getting to meet a lot of the Savage Worlds guys, including Shane Hensley. And I was asked to write some adventures, and then I got in and they asked me to work on riffs for Savage Worlds. And that just kept getting better and better and more fun and more fun. And I got to know Kevin Simbita that way. And and then Kevin, earlier this year, Kevin asked me to join him at Palladium Books, and he was nervous that he would offend someone at Pinnacle. And I told him, no, I'm a contractor. It's cool.
Right. So when did
long story short.
Yeah. When did you get into, when did you go to college for game design? When was that roughly?
So that was, so in 2014, I went back to school using my GI Bill. And so I went to Lone Star College and studied visual design, graphic design type stuff, including layout, and did an internship there at the college. And then I applied for, after getting that associate's done, I applied for the bachelor's program at the University of Texas in Dallas, which is part of the new, very well-known, at least in the area, arts and technology program. University of Texas in Dallas is a feeder school for Texas Instruments. Okay. It was created by them, and so this is one of the new programs they had. And so I took a lot of classes that dealt with traditional game design, also level design for video games, production management for it. Actually, that class was more focused on 3D animation for movies. But it applies the same to production of other things as well. And I studied a lot of user experience, interaction design for games. Again, video games, but a lot of it is very applicable to your hardcore real stuff. And previously to that, I've had a few different crazy jobs. For a while, I've been a missionary overseas.
Oh wow!
I was part of a jousting troupe. I was the master at arms with a jousting troupe for a little while. Some good guys with Noble Cause Productions. If you look them up, they're great. So I kind of got my super medieval geek on with that. And then in the Air Force, I was a Chinese analyst expert, and I'm fluent in Mandarin. So wow. Random trivia.
That's awesome, though. That's really cool. So
yeah, done a little bit of everything.
Man, so you've moved up pretty quick then, I would say. I mean, what, 6-7 years possibly in the industry then? Or when did you work
not
on those
even,
projects
yeah.
for Pinnacle?
Well, and one of the things I will say is I also used to manage a store for Games Workshop and worked at DB Games. So I've kind of been around the gaming establishment for a while. My first RPG that I owned it's on the shelf over there. Sometimes it's sitting right next to me. Right. Was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Same.
So I got introduced. My buddy had the red box, but then I was a big Ninja Turtles nerd. So I forget who gave it to me. So a family friend gave it to me, I think. And
same here.
And yeah, I think actually I bought it. My really good family friend gave me the graphic novels, and I got a hold of the RPG, and I was like, yes, because and it was the same art, right? It's the same artist. It was amazing. And then I got into Ninja and Super Spies because I wanted the Kung Fu, and then I got into Robotech because it's Robotech, and then Rifts happened, and I've played other games, plenty of other games since
Yeah.
then, but I always come back to Rifts.
You sound like me. It feels like I'm looking into a mirror, you know.
Yeah, well, we both got really great haircuts,
Right.
but no, yeah. What year was it? I believe it was. Let me think. It was the towards the end of 2017, I believe.
Okay.
I had met Shane and Sean Patrick Fannin and Clint and Jody Black and a bunch of the great people involved with ETU, East Texas University, if anyone's familiar with that. They're also Houstonians, so they're great guys. But no, I met a lot of different people, and they were like, you need to come to, because I went to a convention in Houston and at the Rice University, and then they said, you need to come to ChupacabraCon in Austin. And I got to meet a lot of great people there, and that, yeah, they were like, oh, well, let's give this guy a shot. He's studying this in college. Maybe he knows something, maybe he doesn't, but we'll have him write an adventure. So, and then, yeah, I don't know exactly. They must have liked it, I guess. I also sent a bunch of like, here's an RPG I designed as a semester long project in the class. And here's this and that I've written, short stories and stuff like that. So I guess that helped. I don't know. I never really asked about that, but no, I started working on Empires of Humanity, the book that would become Empires of Humanity. And they quickly asked me to help out with overseeing a lot of art production with Sigil Entertainment, the great folks at Sigil Entertainment, to make sure that it was all prepped for Kevin's review and looked riffs. And it's, because riffs is very specific. If you get a detail wrong, then it doesn't look right. It's not right. And so we want to make sure that
and the fans are diehard and will call you out on it.
Right. Well, and I'm one of those fans,
they correct me all the time.
So I would look up, everything. Right. And so that was a really great experience. And I remember I was like, oh my gosh, I got to email Kevin Sambina. And then I was like, oh, I got to talk to him on the phone, yeah. And then I would just call him and annoy him. Right. We've got more art for you to approve. Right. Because we did the Arcanon, Mysticism, Blood and Veins, and then Empires of Humanity at the same time. And so it's just piles of art that need to be done.
You didn't annoy him though. He loved it. He did.
Yeah, well, sometimes I think he likes me, I guess, but yeah, sometimes it was just so much art, right? Yeah. We were trying to get done in a quick amount of time and get it accurate. But I quickly figured out what Kevin likes, what he doesn't like, the levels of detail or things to watch out for. And it was a great experience too, because one of the things that I enjoy about the working on the Rifts for Savage Worlds books is that Kevin approves all the lore, and we got to dive into some of the details of, hey, what happened to Fort Pinnacle during the Crusade for Humanity and things like that, or the war with Tolkien, and so that was really interesting to get in there and have little things like that become canon. Right. And they're, Kevin's like, hey, after we talk about something, he's like, hey, email me, and so I have a note about that if we go work on that in one of our books. I'm like, okay, and that was really neat. And then just kind of, I mean, Kevin really blindsided me when he asked me to join him at Palladium. Yeah. But by that point, I'd worked on the revised Savage Rifts books. When we launched the 3 New World books, we also revised the original 3 because the new adventure edition of Savage Worlds was coming up. Mm-hmm. And so Shane made the decision, which I think was a really great call, to, instead of put a whole bunch of books out right before a big switch over in rules, he said, let's go ahead and have it be the first product, the first licensed product that's going to be compatible with the adventure edition. So it was a lot of hard work. It was tough, but we did a big, long, I think it was like 1.5, 2 month long fan feedback period. Nice. And really got a lot of feedback, really went in there and dialed in a lot of the text and made sure that the juicer was juicy and the crazer was craziest. And, but
were there a lot of drastic changes from the original Savage Rifts to the Savage Rifts revised? Because I have the original Kickstarter. I got the box like sitting right here that I purchased. and I have not actually seen the revised Savage Rifts yet.
Oh, okay. Well, there are a lot of changes. Well, okay. So one of the big things is that the Adventure Edition of Savage Worlds, it was a big leap forward, in my opinion. It's my, favorite. I say this often. It's one of my favorite RPGs in print.
Okay.
It is just, it's actually my favorite in print right now, I would say. Sorry, Palladium, but no.
Well, we can fix that. I mean,
yeah. But no, I really love Savage Worlds because of a lot of the math behind it. And I'm just kind of a nerd for things like that, the dice and all that kind of stuff. Critical
I love
failures
talking mechanics and stuff. And
yeah. So, but no, and I think my all-time favorite is still the Palladium system. And I think that's kind of obvious, but yeah, it was one of those really interesting things that there's new ways that powers work, and that you have what are called power modifiers. And so instead of having mega powers, which is like an alternate version of a power that's all beefed up, instead you can add certain degrees of abilities to a power, which was really cool, because then we could do things like presence sense. Okay. And so add these little options depending on maybe what's appropriate.
Some more variables, so it's not like every single one of this class feels the same and stuff too, right?
Right. And essentially we also have it's essentially a minor psionics list. We have a psychic powers list. So if you're playing a psychic, you can choose powers from this list. But if you're a mind melter or a mystic, you have a devoted list. And again, the mind melter and some other classes will even say choose a power from the mind melters list. Well, that's basically, you can choose a super psionic power, right? So there were a lot of little things we did like that to try and really dial that in. I think that we really made sure that the mind melter was very, very cool. They got a new ultra aura ability, and master of the psychics, and then the ley line walker got some really cool abilities for being just like the arcane specialist that they are, to help them differentiate from something you could kind of build from scratch with a Mars character, say, which is, you get a lot of extra advances at the beginning of play when you play one of the, a rogue scholar or a wilderness scout, things like that. Headhunter, for people that aren't familiar with Savage Rifts.
It's funny because when I've played Savage Rifts with Sean Patrick Fannin and various other people, and like I really enjoyed playing like the Glitter Boy and Juicer, but I've always enjoyed Juicer, but compared to what I would play in normal Rifts, like Glitter Boy's cool and all, but I love playing just normal humans, like the idea of like a coalition soldier who left the coalition. Like I love those kinds of characters. I have not played a Mars character with Savage Rifts yet though.
So that's one of the things that, so again, we dialed in a lot of things. There was a lot of it was just really refining what was there, and then taking some opportunities with the new edition. But like the juicer burn mechanic works just a little bit differently. I feel like it's really great because you can use it, and when you roll the burn die, if you don't roll a 1, then you didn't lose a point of burn. So the juicers are constantly,
because before it got harder every time, and then once you've burned it all up, basically you're going to die that day.
Well, if you would just spend the burn to roll the die, but that meant that your character was getting closer and closer to their death. Now we tempt them to roll a lot, and so they're doing really cool feats of juicer coolness. But there's that chance that they're going to lose that burn. The other thing I worked a lot on was I worked really, and there's I have to give a lot of credit to the fans. They really helped me know what language to dial in and stuff. So one of the things that I thought was really great that we did was with the Mars packages, we made sure that almost all of them have some sort of special ability. So if you're playing a cyberdoc or a body fixer, there's a little bit different ability that you have. If you're playing an operator, you're getting a free reroll on these repair checks. So a lot of them were more interesting that way with the Adventure Edition of Savage Rifts. And let me see. Those were the really big changes. There was a big damage overhaul pass. On how much damage a lot of weapons do. So I think that you'll find that that's been, again, fine-tuned in quite a bit more.
Did it stay the same with how like SDC and MDC is represented in Savage Rifts, or did you guys change that? Okay,
that didn't change. One thing I did add, and it was really interesting during the feedback period. A lot of people were like, "I don't like this idea," but then when people started playing it, we got really good feedback. Was to different. So normally in Rifts in Savage Worlds, if there's something called heavy weapons and heavy armor. And if you attack something with heavy armor, kind of like MDC, in Palladium system, then and you don't have heavy damage weapon, then it's not a heavy weapon. Well, it doesn't do anything, right?
It's like punching a tank, nothing happens.
Punching a tank, nothing happens, right? And it can't. There's no point in rolling.
Right.
On the converse, if you had a weapon that deals heavy damage, or in Rifts, in Savage Rifts, we call it mega damage, right?
Yep.
And so if you had a mega damage thing hitting somebody who didn't have mega damage protection, that was where it felt kind of weird because nothing different happened. Right. So what I introduced was, if you're if you don't have mega damage protection, then the gritty damage rule applies. So say a combat cyber punches a mouthy, rogue scholar or then if he deals a wound, normally in Savage Worlds you don't get an injury until you're incapacitated by that. Gotcha. By taking your full number of wounds. But in this case, you would get an injury that lasts until that wound is healed. So you could break his jaw or something.
Right. Okay.
Right. So, and people seem to have fun with it too, because they felt like some of the feedback I got was, the crazy would use his bioregeneration more after a fight because his arm's busted or different things like that.
Right.
Character, they said it felt like that added some to it. And there's a lot of little things like that, but that was one of my favorite additions on that level.
I definitely like that, because that was one of the things I liked about the original Savage Rifts. And I know some old school diehard Palladium fans had issues with that, because they were like, well, no, if I shoot you with my MDC pistol and you don't have SDC, you should die. And I'm like, yeah, but what if you graze them? Like, come on, Right.
So, well, and so, again, the damage profiles in Savage Worlds, it's not hit points based, it's wounds based. And so there's a really totally different mechanic going on. Mm-hmm. But I really like it. I think it's really fun. It can be very cinematic.
Yeah.
And so, that was a way though to add in some of that, a little bit of that grittiness back into the combat and the threat of getting hit by mega damage weapons.
Nice. So before we move on to anything else, we do have a couple questions. We have Dreamstride on YouTube says, can you share what your first project at Palladium will be, upcoming books or otherwise?
Yes. My numero uno project that I'm working on right now is Rifter 85.
And that's the annual now. It's going to come out once a year. Is that the plan moving forward?
Yeah, we're calling this one the annual, and I think that we'll probably do that in the near future. A lot of this, it just depends on different market factors. We want to make the best decisions. And, if it's quarterly, that means that it's impacting how we're putting out books, right?
Correct.
If it's annually, though, I feel like you're still getting that support for all the different game lines. Mm-hmm. In this Rifter, we've got things for all of them, basically. Nightbane, Dead Rain, Palladium Fantasy, Rifts, Heroes Unlimited, and Beyond the Supernatural. There's all types of stuff, including whether it's story material or adventure material or character material. It's really neat. It looks like it's going to be, I don't know if we officially announced this, but yeah, it's probably going to be 224 pages.
Nice. So it is bigger too. Then.
Yeah, it's.
It used to be like 80 pages or something, I think.
Usually, I think before it was 96.
Yeah. Okay.
I believe.
That makes sense.
And so because of the way that usually you had 32s. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm very happy with a lot of the submissions. I will put out there, since there was a lot of material that I was like, oh man, I really wish I could use this, but I'm gonna have to put it aside for the future. If you really want to get in on the Rifter, I would say submit something that's not Rifts.
Right, everything's Rifts.
Because we want to, and I'm an
SDC fan. I like the Heroes
Rifts.
Unlimited. And it seems like there are sometimes Rifters that are light on the stuff over the years. There were sometimes Rifters that were light on the stuff I really wanted, so I'd skip them,
Right. And so that's one of the things that is really important to us, is supporting all the different lines and making sure that what we're putting in is interesting. But if it's just, I mean, I could have filled these 200 and whatever pages full of riffs, right? We had that many submissions. They're good. So the other thing I would say is if your riffs material didn't get selected, like, don't feel like that's a slight on you. That's really not. But yeah, we want to make sure that we support a lot of different things. But yeah, that's the first big thing that I'm working on. And you know, I don't know if for anybody may have not caught the interview that Kevin and I did together when we made the announcement. I have a bunch of books that we've got, a lot of art, writing, internal art, cover art, that we're working on. You can check that out in the Rifter. We're talking about what's coming up soon and things like that. But that's my number one goal, besides learning how everything works. Sure. And all of that type of stuff, and helping to make it run as efficiently as possible and take as much I can off of Kevin's plate so that he can do the things that only Kevin can do. Yeah, the big thing is to get a lot of these books out the door. So yeah, we're trying to institute a policy where we don't talk about things until they're going to go to print. So, but with the Rifter, we've already announced it in the weekly update. So I feel a little more confident saying that.
Well, and with
and like I'm not breaking my own rules.
Yeah, with things the way they are right now too, with not knowing, you know, paper shortages and everything, it's probably best to keep it, especially right now, to keep it.
That's really,
because you can't
and that's
control
really tough.
some of the stuff.
Yeah, that's really tough. You know, one of the great things is that Kevin and Palladium Books has really good working relationship with a lot of printers. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the great things, is a lot of them have been saying, hey, you've been printing domestically forever. Yeah. And we really appreciate that. And because right now everyone wants to print domestically, but maybe they were getting their stuff from somewhere else or whatever. But that's one of the things that we've heard that's been really good. But yeah, it's really nuts right now. And so we're doing our best. That's the other thing that you know, we'll see how it affects it, right? We just can't make any promises there, and we're trying to be very careful with our messaging so that everyone understands it's just a very topsy-turvy time for book production, because the price of wood's crazy. One or two of the largest printers that, we're talking like mega printing companies, right? Went under for some reason in the past year or two.
Oh, wow.
And so that was already causing a lot of disruption in the printing industry. And then with all the different international shipping issues, then a lot of companies are turning to domestic printing as well. So it's a real mess.
Yeah. So we have another question. Oh no, it scrolled on me. Just one sec. This is from JV Adams. What Palladium title or game line outside of Rifts are you most looking forward to working on?
Palladium title outside of Rifts that I'm most interested in working on.
Or game line, I think, as well.
Yeah. I see it that way too. I understand that. Yeah. Personally, I think Beyond the Supernatural is pretty freaking cool. I'm a real big nerd for the Supernatural TV show.
Oh, okay.
And like X-Files and stuff like that.
I used to watch X-Files as a kid. Oh man, they creep me out.
Yeah, right. Like the Monster of the Week episodes and stuff. So, yeah, that's something that I'm really excited about working on. Yeah. And so, yeah, that the next title I work on may or may not be Beyond the Supernatural title. That's awesome. That has already, been mentioned before. So,
I love it. Oh, and it may have been mentioned before. Interesting. Another question. This is from Jim Has Fun on Twitch. Did techno wizardry originate in North America, or was it something discovered at similar times in multiple places?
That's a really interesting question, Jim. If you look, I remember when I was doing a deep dive on the lore for the New West. If you look up like the Colorado baronies, then I remember the lore with that was tied into techno wizardry and mysticism. So I would double check that to look at the details. But yeah, it did seem like techno-wizardry was one of those things that, well, especially mysticism was something that the mystic, right, seemed to be, especially in that text, I think it calls it out specifically, that it was, happening in a lot of places at once. As far as techno-wizardry, I'd have to go double check with Kevin, but it does seem like it had a heyday in North America.
Yeah.
Because and I'm not, of course I say something and then everybody's going to dogpile me.
I was going to say, you're getting brave here, man.
but yeah, no, I mean, I think techno-wizardry was picked up in a few other regions, right?
Yeah.
Where you'll find it in world books and stuff. But North America does seem to be kind of an epicenter. But I mean, that it could seem like that a lot of ways for different things in Rifts. So, but yeah, go look at that, Jim, if you want to double check my work. But I know techno-wizardry does seem like in one form or another has cropped up in a lot of different places, though.
Was New West the first place it was mentioned?
Well, I mean, it was.
I have the Rifts Unlimited or the Ultimate Edition, so I know that's like got extra.
Well, no, that's not where it was first mentioned. It's just that's when I've read the lore. It was talking like immediately after the apocalypse. So that's the first place, like in the timeline, where I remember seeing a reference to it. But there could be something in some other world book that says in whatever AD or PA. During the Dark Ages, right? Because it's the Dark Ages when it first crops up. So it's that seemed to me. I remember.
And who knows? Someone might write a Chaos Earth book and just rewrite history at some point.
Right. I mean, you never know, right? And that's the interesting thing about having these evolving narratives and worlds, which is really fun.
I love it. So what does a creative director do for a gaming company?
I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
I've never heard that title. I mean, I've worked in companies where we've had directors. Creative director to me seemed like I don't know. I can't pinpoint it. I was thinking, is that like an idea guy? But like everyone, there's an idea guy. Right?
No, at least not the way that Kevin and I are trying to use it. So one of the things. So when Kevin asked me to join him as his business partner, one of the big things that he said he wanted me to help him revitalize Palladium, and move things forward. Nice. And after he's no longer able to be a part of it or whatever.
30 years from now, I think we said on the other stream.
I mean, that would be great if I'm still around in 30 years.
Kevin's going to be around in 30 years.
Oh yeah, Kevin. Well, yeah, exactly.
He's going to live into the Rifts.
If he's if he, I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin lasts longer than me. Funny enough, this guy, he's a hardworking guy. Yeah. When people say, "Oh, Kevin's working really hard," he's working really hard. But I think that for us, the creative director is
like the strategy behind the creative, correct? Something like that. Like you're plotting like multiple years down the line, what leads to what.
It's exactly what we're doing, right? Yeah. And so one of the big things is that there's a lot of different things going on behind the scenes at a company like Palladium. And it's really interesting because it's very different from Pinnacle. Pinnacle is very distributed, where everyone's working remotely. It's very well coordinated, very well done. I love working with the Pinnacle people. But it's coming to Palladium, to the warehouse, to the physical studio, to having my own office here, right? There's a lot of nuts and bolts that are happening, and so for instance, that means that we have our own warehouse. We're shipping things out of here, and so that's there's a lot of things that are going on there. Like for instance, you were just talking about the books and the issues with publishings and printers and all these kind of the paper and all this stuff. I mean, that can eat up days in a week, right? When we're just trying to reprint. You think, oh, we're just going to reprint, these books because we've sold out of them and we need more copies of them. That can turn into a bit of a logistics nightmare right now. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the creative director is trying to take a lot of the organizational and creative pressures off of Kevin so that he can handle things like that. But the funny thing is that actually hopefully will free him up to write and produce more content on his own, right? because he used to be known as the Machine, because he would just write so much, all 6-8 books in a year would have his name on it, right? And so that's one of my big things. And the other thing is having a guided vision for the future, and right, like I'm going through manuscripts,
your
trying to get them
direction
across the finish line, right?
Yeah.
It's so I'm he's Kevin's trusting me to apply the principles and the things we discussed to these new products. And so I think that's what that and the interesting thing is too is that Kevin's given me the opportunity and the freedom to be the creative director. I mean, he takes it pretty seriously too.
That's a lot of trust.
So it is, and it's
no pressure,
me, I guess. No pressure, right? It surprised me, but the funny thing is it's kind of weird. He and I see very eye to eye.
Yeah.
And I'd never heard of this term simpatico before, but Kevin and I really, and the funny thing is we'll come in from totally different directions, but we really understand each other. And so that's been really neat too, to work with him. And so, but that was kind of the best title we could come up with. But I will be coming up. I am the Rift, a big fan to see a lot of the submissions like come in. And some of these people have published stuff in a Rifter before, right? And so I want a lot of things I want to do is put together a writer's guide so that anyone who's submitting has a good guidelines, clear guidelines on things, guides on, hey, how are we going to, what's the formal structure we want for a source book or world book, so that it's easier for people to pitch ideas, put together book outlines, be a part of the creativity. And so that's where, again, I see is I'm trying to put a little bit of, I'm a very organizational, system focused person. And so that's kind of, I think, where that comes from as well. But at the same time, it's been really interesting trying to figure out, Palladium's been bottling lightning pretty consistently for a long time. And figuring out what's the secret sauce is important as well, and not losing that as we move forward.
Yeah, for sure. So what is your relationship with Pinnacle moving forward? I mean, we're still going to see Savage Rifts books. I think you've said that on other streams. What is your relationship with Pinnacle moving forward?
Well, the funny thing is my relationship with Pinnacle hasn't technically changed at all. I'm the, I was a writer and contractor, and then I was the line manager, and then they made me the line editor. And so the big difference there is that I can edit anything that anybody writes for the line, pretty much at will. But no, it's really interesting because I really love Savage Rifts and Savage Worlds. I really love Rifts, and I don't want there to be any sort of fumble. I don't want to let down the fans. And one of the things that Kevin and I discussed, and he agreed to, was I can do as much Savage Rifts as I want, for as long as I want. And so I'm going to continue on in that as much as I can. I do have some able writers and designers that I've been working with on some products, for instance, the upcoming Terror on the Dark Frontier adventure module, and also the South America book. But I'm still at the helm. I'm still outlining the products. I'm still writing a lot of them, and coordinating the design with the guys. So it's a little more hands off, right? Because, for instance, I wrote Atlantis and the Demon Seas cover to cover, and did all the art direction management and stuff with working with Sigil. So, like, in the future books, you're going to see a lot more names. But it's still got that hands-on approach with people that I really trust, and I think the fans are going to be really excited to see the things that we're working on. It's in a lot of ways, no major changes. In fact, I think if anything, being here at Palladium really helps with coordination, because if I
Nice.
really need to walk down the hallway, I can go ask Kev a question, or
He can't ignore your phone calls anymore.
right, it's like Kevin, no, but yeah, and or I can go talk to Wayne or Alex or one of the other guys here, if I have something that comes up, and they'll be like, oh, let's go look at our archives. They got all types of cool stuff here, by the way, at the Palladium offices, because we can go look at old books and old art, and there's sometimes there's notes in them from when that book was first created. It's pretty neat. And
Speaking
really
of which,
see some cool
cheap
stuff.
plug, the Palladium Open House tickets are on sale if you want to see some of the cool stuff they have there for next April, right?
Yeah, April, I think it's the 22nd or the 25th, but yeah, check out palladiumbooks.com. You can just search Palladium Open House 2022. I'd love to see as many fans as I can there, especially my Savage Rifts peeps. If you can make it, that'd be great. But yeah, we're really excited about that. Another thing that we've got going on right now that's really cool is we have the Christmas surprise packages.
Yes.
So basically, Kevin acts kind of like Santa Claus. Yeah. And so you give us your list of 12 to 15 or more books.
Oh, no. You got to be crazy like me. Send a list of every book you own, and then every book you want in order. Like, that's what I do. And then I'm like, here you go. And then I'm usually really happy.
Then you can't really have it go wrong, right?
Right. You don't get duplicates.
Right. And so, but that's the cool thing too, because if you're like, hey, I like art, or hey, I like this, or a t-shirt, or
a photograph.
Or a photo, yeah, actually. And the other thing that's cool is we'll sign anything that you want. So if you say that you want signatures, we'll sign every book. And so that's a really great thing for a lot of people. They're really excited about that. But yeah, you get about for $55, you get about a $95 plus dollars worth of product. So it's about half off. Yeah, it's a pretty sweet deal. And
it's already a great value even without that discount. I mean, I don't know of a lot of books you can get like the core book for $30 straight from the publisher.
But Palladium prices are very good value. I have to agree with you there. And I mean, the books last forever. I've still got my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've still got my it was a third printing because they kept selling out so fast. But in the first year, I got a copy of Rifts. It's still kicking. And so these perfect bound books are nigh on indestructible, in my opinion, indestructible compared to some other gaming books I've had in the past. Yeah. So they're a really great deal there. And
the new hardcovers are great too.
The new hardcovers are beautiful. Yes. The Rifts, of course, the old Rifts hardcover. I mean, look, I kind of like the art. Did our own homage to it on Atlantis and the Demon Seas. So no, great stuff. And if you are a Savage Rifts fan, I will say, and you don't know about all the awesomeness that is the Palladium books, check out, if you like juicers or one of your players likes juicers, this is a chance to throw in Juicer Uprising.
I just got
or different books that they might be interested in, and say they're playing a Lemurian, well, you could go get Lemuria, and then that could be great for giving to your friends and family, great for delving into more of the background, because when we work on Savage Rifts, we're not trying to replace anything. I think the best way to describe it is kind of like the Rifts aftermath for Palladium fans. We're just kind of updating everything to that 109 PA timeline and giving you a good snapshot of what's going on in each book. So, for instance, Atlantis and the Demon Seas has Atlantis, Lemuria, the New Navy, and so you can really see how all those different things fit together in the setting.
Yes. So what, sorry, I had a question I forgot all of a sudden. I hate when that happens. We were talking right before that Christmas bags open house. Oh, so the open house, are there any special events that you're going to have? So Kevin has the VIP the night before the special night, right? Are you going to be doing anything special as well, or any games that you're
That's a good
run?
question. It's a funny thing, and I feel like I feel kind of funny saying it. I'm from Texas. I'm from Houston, so I've never been to a Palladium open house. And when I started getting involved with Savage Rifts, I had planned and lined up to do it, And Shane was like, "Oh yeah, well make sure you can get there and be taken care of and stuff." And then of course now I'm at Palladium,
Right?
and there
You
because
live there.
it was delayed because of the pandemic. Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where yeah, I don't know. And if fans want something different, I was planning on running some Savage Rifts and stuff like that. But if the fans have any ideas, how much I appreciate you guys. Go go maybe post in the Savage Rifts Facebook group and let us know what ideas you might have for things you'd like to see at the Palladium Open House. Because I'd love to see some of you guys there. I'd love to run games with you and chat and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah, that's an interesting question.
So personal question. So this is something that I've been wanting for like 15 years. I want a tech unlimited for Heroes Unlimited, hardware unlimited, something like that. Because for instance, the Heroes Unlimited books, a lot of them are out of date at this point, right? You're talking about books that are 23 years ago. We have so much technology that's advanced. It would be so awesome. Obviously, you could just go to Rifts, but there's a lot of things I think could be expanded in there.
It's a little different, right? Because no, you're right. Drone technology, surveillance technology. This all to me that all says like supervillain,
right?
But
and all the creation
that's a
rules
really
around it
question.
and stuff. So
yeah, that's a good question. Well, we're always listening. I don't have anything, and again, even if we were working on something, I wouldn't tell you until we were ready to announce it.
Right.
And so one of the big things that's been tough in the past, and I know why Kevin has done it, is he's gotten excited about things and he wants to talk about it with the fans, and I think that's awesome. But a lot of times if something doesn't pan out because of maybe a writer or for whatever reason, they're shifting gears and doing what's right for Palladium's approach. Then if a book doesn't come out, and the other thing is even if they announce it clearly, hey, this has been canceled, a lot of times fans may not get the memo. Yeah. And so one of the tacks we're trying to take now is until we have something either heading to print and or heading to crowdfunding, we are not going to announce it. So I'm trying to follow my own rules, but that's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
And I will say that actually the new Rifter has 3 hardware, supplemental hardware character types that are optional material. So maybe you can get a little bit of a bit there. But hey, if you have some cool ideas too, again, I would say
just
maybe if you have cool ideas, write it up for the Rifter. I'd love to see it. I'm being super serious. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But that's something cool. I'll keep that in mind and I'll mention it to Kevin if he's not watching right now. So
he's probably heard it because it was a big thing on the forums a while back too, and I've always been like fingers crossed, hoping. So from Twitch, Apollyon 7588 says, will the Tomorrow Legion be brought into the Palladium Rifts storyline? That is a great question.
So I have a YouTube channel, which is essentially, it's not dead or defunct. The funny thing is I just started doing so many interviews with Pinnacle and Palladium that I stopped producing stuff from my own channel because I was appearing so often in other stuff. But the last video I do is like this 2.5 hour long banger with Kevin where we're talking. And one of the things he says is that he's already put the Tomorrow Legion into an encounter table that he was working on. I think it published it a year ago or something. They're trying to get it out before Gen Con, I believe. So I think there's a table that's already out there where you can run into a Legionnaire, a Tomorrow Legionnaire.
So it's canon. It's there.
I mean, it's there. There is, again, I don't want to announce something or talk about something.
Oh, but, nobody's listening. Nobody watches this little channel. You're okay.
Well, let's just say that you may see in a future book, you may see some information in a Palladium book that references the Tomorrow Legion. Now, the other thing that Kevin and I really enjoy is the idea that Savage Rifts is a slightly different timeline.
Like an alternate universe almost?
We'll see.
Okay.
But so you might see, when you see the Tomorrow Legion pop up, there may be differences, subtle differences or overt differences that you may notice, and keep that in mind, that that there could be a divergent timeline there.
Ooh, there's something to salivate over. I love that. So what is the plan moving forward with future Savage Rifts products? Obviously, you have South America next, right? Or no,
next is Terror on the Dark Frontier. So that's
okay.
So Kevin and Shane, we're all, and me, the team, we're all really excited about this. This is if you've seen Horror at Headstone Hill for Deadlands, this is something similar. It's a big box set that's going to have really cool pawns. It's going to have
nice.
We're still working on the details, and production's kind of tough right now, but it's going to have really cool things in the box that are going to be great play aids. We're hoping to do like wanted posters, but it's set in
wanted posters is a nice touch. I like that.
But we'll see what we can get in there. But it's a big adventure campaign.
Okay.
Think of like a plot point campaign writ large, but with a whole bunch of other material around it. And I think that Palladium fans will have just as much fun with it, because the way that Pinnacle adventures are written, you can easily, use Palladium rules. It's just a story. It's just a story, and then you encounter this many people of this type, or this many dead boys, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's set in the frontier, the Coalition frontier, but they're butting up against the Comanche Preserve. And so the players may or may not meet Aaron Tarn, and may or may not get involved in a bunch of different things going on there. And there's something darker lurking in the background as well. Okay. Aaron J. Riley, the wonderful artist, very talented, is he's working on the cover art for it. Okay. I've seen the sketch. It's amazing. He's always amazing, but I mean, I just love his stuff. But that's the next big one. And with that will be coming a whole bunch of pawns. We're looking to flesh out a lot of the pawn set. We just did an update today on the Atlantis Kickstarter. There are 181 pawns.
Oh wow!
I think 100 and I forget exactly how many are unique, but a bunch of them you'll have like say 5 Skelelots or whatever, right? That set, there's just so much to cover, because we've already released 7 books.
Yeah.
For Savage Rifts, and we're trying to play catch up with the pawns. But this set will really help to flesh out the pawn sets as well.
Did Mike do those pawns, or is the art from the art drawn by your artists at Pinnacle? Madman Mike used to do like the pawns.
Oh no. These are pawns. No, these are the artists that you'll see their names. Okay. They're in the books that are published. We use as much art as we already had. Sure. That was suitable for pawns, and sometimes for different various reasons. For instance, with the Spider Skullwalker, it just didn't work. Yeah. And because what we had was a half page of art, and it didn't translate well to a pawn. It would just be this big thing that would fall over and look ugly. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that I'm hoping, for instance, to get into this next pawn set. Fingers crossed. No promises. I love you guys. But so the pawns are, and they're really cool. They're about yay big. They basically match like your 25, 28 millimeter miniature on a tabletop. They have front and back art.
Oh, okay. So you can
tell which way they're facing, right? And they are die cut, so they're very nice stock. So they're really great. They look and feel really great. I used some of the Deadlands ones at Expedition Deadwood in August. Okay. And combined with the battle map, I mean, it really worked. Yeah. It really worked. And I kind of, in some ways, they're easier to transport. Yeah. You don't have to paint them. I mean, I was a Games Workshop guy, right? So I know about miniatures.
I have a lot of unpainted miniatures. I understand the
right. Well, and then the other thing is the price point, right? So for a very low price point, you can get almost 200 pawns.
Yeah. that you can throw on your table within the same night of buying them.
And a lot of people are getting more than one box because it's very inexpensive. So I would say, especially, you want 10 dead boys, well, because we have one, fire team, essentially, a sergeant, a heavy gunner, and 3 infantry. Right. So a couple of pawn boxes will be good, but yeah, those are really nice. I really enjoy them on the tabletop. But then so Terror in the Dark Frontier. And then after that, we've already got South America is outlined, and Kevin's already approved all the timeline updates and things, because one of the things about South America is one of the earlier world books.
Yeah. And
we're jumping it all the way forward to 109 PA, and there hasn't been a lot of stuff that updates that timeline. Mm-hmm. So Kevin really enjoyed reading the proposals for the different shifts and changes. If you read through South America 1 and 2 by Palladium, you'll see that it's about this war is about to start, and this is about to happen, and these people are about to do this. And so we show you how a lot of that has shaken out. And things that are still continuing or have gotten more interesting. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really neat book for all Rifts fans, because the storyline is canon, and it's if you like the Megaverse Legion, so it's pretty neat stuff.
Lore is probably the best part of Palladium Books. Like even if you are not playing the game, like you can pick up the book and just read through it cover to cover. There's not a lot of games or gaming books that you can just do that. And
that's the amazing every time. Well, and the Palladium system is so approachable, in my opinion. And I played it a lot. And I know times have changed a little bit. People want more defined rules after Magic the Gathering, after Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, the popular Pathfinder. That people want a little, what was a selling point to have more open rules. Yeah. And for, that were open to interpretation here and there was a selling point. Now people may want it a little more defined, but in general, the system is just great and has stood the test of time, in my opinion. The Palladium books are awesome. And I would say, again, at the beginning of every Savage Rifts book, every world book, we list all the books that we referenced, primarily at least, right? There's only like 20 primary references for Empires of Humanity.
Right?
It's nuts, because when I did my outline,
you're sitting there with a cork board and string,
page numbers. I felt like that. I really did. So that's one of the great things, and that's one of the things I always tell Savage Rifts fans, especially ones that aren't familiar with Palladium, is, hey, they can start asking about, well, what's about this? And I wish there was more. There's a lot more, dude. Like, it's out there. And again, Christmas surprise packages. So is a great way if you want to try out some new stuff or have stuff to give to your players.
Completely.
Those are the big things we've got planned, and then after that, we'll do more cool stuff.
Nice. So with your relationship with Pinnacle and Palladium, are we going to see writers crossing to the other side and writing, like maybe a Rifts writer, freelancer starts writing Savage Rifts, or maybe Savage Rifts writers start writing Palladium stuff? Maybe the same with art, seeing some of the freelancers jump and do the other stuff. Will we see some of that crossover? And maybe even within Palladium Books, will we see more colored art in the books and things like that?
Those are some really interesting questions. One of the things that I think you will see. So for instance, one of the one sheets that we released during the Atlantis Rising Kickstarter was written by Johnny Racha, who is one of the people that is working on the Savage Rifts design team. Mm-hmm. And he is a huge fan of Glitter Boys. In the new Rifter, we have 2 really great articles by Will Irwin on Glitter Boys, and expanded information on Glitter Boy culture, Glitter Boy hot rodding, and modifications. And Johnny, I talked to Johnny. I said, hey, we've got a little bit of space if you want to write something in here. I know how much you love it. So he wrote some material for the Rifter. So I think that's definitely a possibility. That's one of the things that Kevin has been excited about working with me, is that I guess it's I'm coming from a different part of the industry with different collection of different connections, a different collection of hardcore Rifts fans, right? But no, it's we're really excited to intermingle and intermix the friend groups there and the people we work with there. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see that. Kevin's a real big fan of, for instance, I was just talking about Aaron Riley. He's done the cover for Empires of Humanity and Atlantis Rising, or sorry, not Atlantis Rising, that was the Kickstarter, but the Atlantis and the Demon Season. Those are both of my books. So I want him to do Terror on the Dark Frontier. I hope he's available to do South America. He's a very successful artist. So we're really fortunate we can get him. But Kevin really likes his work too. So Kevin would like to ask him to do stuff for Palladium possibly in the future. So
nice.
These are things that there's definitely crossover, definite I really like that guy's pencils. Some of the guys that we've been working with through Pinnacle, I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin's like, hey, what was the name of that guy? I really liked his art. That's definitely things that you could possibly see. As far as you also asked about color.
For example, we see the art. So at 5-10 years from now, if you had to guess, maybe you already know, would we see Palladium Books still doing the black and white style art? Or are we possibly going to see them start incorporating more colored pages? You get that with some of the special edition books, but you don't get it with most of the books, right?
So I would say, I don't want to make any promises or anything, but we're definitely looking at that. The situation in the printing industry is very tough right now. So even if we wanted to do X, Y, Z, there's a lot of technical hurdles maybe to certain approaches. Also Palladium has been selling these, as you said, the collector's edition hardcovers. A lot of them have a lot of bonus content. So the most popular Rifter articles in your Nightbane hardcover or whatever, right? And so, or I really like the end of the new Rifts Anniversary Collector's Edition because it had a whole bunch of sketches by Keith Parkinson. It had a bunch of stuff about the different people here at Palladium.
I love that stuff.
Oh, me too. I was like, but but it was cool because it was in color so we are definitely listening to the fans. The reason that Palladium did the hardcovers is because fans were asking for them.
Yes. So
one of the things I will say is if you guys want something, let us know. Send us a letter. You can look at Palladium Books online, on Google Maps, right? So send us a letter.
I'll drive down tomorrow, man. Don't.
Yeah, man.
I'm only an hour away.
Go grab lunch. Yeah, let's do that. No, let's grab lunch sometime. But
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, but no, for real though, let us know what you guys want and what you're interested in. We really are. So Kevin and I, we both have this philosophy. We want to make fans happy. We're doing this for the fans. And Pinnacle has the same philosophy. Pinnacle is very fan focused, and I think that's why, even though the companies are very different in a lot of ways, there is that similarity there. They're both full of great people driven to produce the best products to the fans. So if you have opinions on stuff like that, let us know. If you want to see certain things, let us know. But
let me know too. And come to my Discord because I love hearing about that.
And that's another thing to say too, because we do pay attention to a lot of things, and we do talk to people who are basically spending as much time as they can getting the pulse of the gamers, right? So that's something that we'll have to explore in the future. But I think that that it would be interesting to try that out maybe and see about more color sections or full color or hardbacks. We'll see. But those are some cool things that we are noticing what fans are being excited about.
Nice. So I do think we have one more question. Assuming you have the time, we are at 9:00.
I'm good, man.
Okay. So CBK Ply on YouTube says, question, we got a sneak peek in the Garden of the Gods about the island of Lopan. Any news you can share on a potential book?
Because of our new policy, no.
All I'm going to say is I think if you scrounge around the internet somewhere, there might be something out there.
It
already.
may have been mentioned before already. Yeah.
You might not want to read it though. You might want to wait and just wait for them to announce it.
Well, and that's that. Again, I know that the real hardcore fans love that stuff, but at the same time, we want to manage expectations and we don't want to disappoint the fans. So, Pinnacle's very good about that. They're very good about saying soon at TM. That's our running joke now. But we they don't like to announce things that aren't like very firmly in the works.
Yeah.
People were just so excited about Terror on the Dark Frontier in South America that we definitely wanted to let people know it was coming in the future.
Yeah.
And we've already got manuscripts, right? And we're play testing stuff. So that's definitely happening. But with Palladium, we're being a little more careful because again, it's the managing production schedules and making the right decisions in the long run is really important. So sorry, but not sorry.
No, you shouldn't be. I'm really excited they brought you on. I think you bring, again, a lot of focus. I think you bring a definitely direction. Like you said earlier, may have been off stream, but you are a very organized person. All of these qualities, I think, are fantastic. And I am really excited to see what direction Savage Rifts goes, all the Palladium products. I'm really excited to see where things go. And so again, thank you. And hopefully we'll have you on again sometime soon. Is there anything else you want to plug or say before we go?
Well, I've got time if we want to do some more questions. I know we've got a lot of fans are in here asking questions. I'm super into answering whatever I can. Again, I don't want to promise something that I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so I hope you guys understand that that's out of love and respect.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the right approach. I think I told you that before when I saw your guys' stream, you and Kevin talking. I told you then I thought that was a great approach, and I'm excited that, again, I think managing expectations is very important. Moving forward.
Yeah, it is. And so we want to do that as best we can.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go through and ask some more questions.
Okay. So what when it comes to Savage Rifts, obviously you said you have South America coming soon. Can you tell us anything about that you haven't said yet?
So South America isn't necessarily coming soon because the first will be Terror, right?
Yeah.
And we do take, I don't want to speak for exactly how they'll be crowdfunded, but it's important to make sure that they all have their proper day in the sun. But some of the cool stuff about South America, let me see. I think people are going to be really excited. I'm a big lore guy, right? I really dig that. I think that people are going to be really stoked to see a lot of the lore, how it's progressed. I think that we're doing some really cool stuff with. So if you're familiar with how we approach the juicer treatments, the various juicer variants in Empires of Humanity is essentially if you first we choose a juicer as your iconic framework, aka OCC.
Yep.
And then instead of it being a different OCC for most of them, besides the Dragon Juicer, which was different enough that I think it warranted its own write-up.
Right.
The Titan Juicer, the Hyperion Juicer, etc., the Delphi Juicer, they were all upgrade treatments. Now you could start out that way, or you could take that as an advanced. Once you were started gaining experience for your character. Similarly, we're taking a similar approach to the Crazy, and the Combat Cyborg, or if you just think of it as a cyborg. So you're going to see variants of those coming in as upgrade edges, I guess you'd call it. And so no promises on specifics or anything, but I think you'll see some really cool stuff in that vein.
So
in these
upgrade edges, you mean like when you hit like 5th session, 10th session, right? That kind of stuff. So
with the way that Savage Worlds works is edges are kind of like talents in Dungeons and Dragons, but the big difference is there's a few big differences. One, they have prerequisites that you a lot of times have to fulfill. So
Like
in
you have
this
to be a
case,
novice, for example, or you have to be there's different tiers.
Yeah, or maybe you need to have a certain attribute minimum or something, or a previous edge, right? There'd be edge changes or chains. So with these juicer upgrade treatments, for instance, they were edges that you could take, and the only requirement was just be a juicer. But you could, I mean, the way that your character is built, you might start with an edge. Let's say as a human, you get a free novice edge. You could start as a Titan juicer.
Nice.
Right. So that's the same way you could build by spending an edge choice on this upgrade package.
Without being a juicer now.
Right. For instance, if you're a combat cyborg, but you'd rather be a planesborg.
Okay.
Or you're a crazy, but you'd rather be like a wired gunslinger. These are different ways that you can build that character. Without having to rehash the crazy.
Yep.
It's just a way that, because essentially, if you look at, say, like even in Palladium, this is true in a lot of cases. And Kevin and I actually talked about this. It's a high level design decision, right? Do you write a whole nother thing with a whole bunch of lore,
right?
And then but with Savage Risk, we're trying to be very, very brief. And make sure that we're giving you as much bang for your buck, where you've got as much stuff converted over rules-wise, the core lore stuff that you really need to run adventures and have fun and know all the lore updates and be up to date on everything. But it doesn't have the depth because it's not designed to, right? I mean, what are we going to do? Redo riffs like 100 source books or something? I mean, that doesn't interest me. I would rather...
the write-ups are much more concise, short, to the point.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're trying to hit the same lore and the same tone and all those things. Absolutely. But we, that our goal is not to replace, it's to supplement and give a Savage Worlds player what they need to play riffs. And so that's the design idea behind it. And because of that, sometimes, I mean, one of the things Kevin constantly says is he's just surprised at how concise the Savage Riffs material is. And so this is the key difference. We're going to give you, instead of, a few pages of lore, which again, we don't want to replace that, but we're going to give you an update, a reminder for maybe the old school fans, something to wet your whistle for the new fans and get you the core idea. And then you can jump in and you can play this variant of, instead of this variant of a juicer, this variant of a cyborg, or this variant of a crazy or something.
I like that.
Yeah. So I think that's fun. And, this is one of those things that, I did not come up with on my own. It was with the design team. We started talking about because, there's a lot of discussion goes into, and a lot of work that you will never see goes into, how do we present this in a way that is faithful to the lore, but also feels like it in the Savage World system, right? Because the two systems are so different. Right. And so sometimes it's funny, people will see something and they'll be like, oh, this edge or this hindrance, it's not very well written. And it's like, dang it, that was like the 6th version of it that I went over with Shane and Clint Black and Simon and
right.
And as soon as, then people see the feedback and they're like, oh, this obviously needs this. And it's like, well, you're right. But we worked really hard on that.
Right. Or we had it that way before and then we tweaked it.
Well, that happens too, right? You're like, oh, I don't think we'll need that, and then it's like, oh yeah, they need that, So no, it's really interesting. It's really interesting. But that's one of the things that I'm really excited about. And then South America's got a lot of cool factions and a lot of cool races and different things like that. One of the things that is really cool that is coming is biomancy, and also like the line wizards, line magic, and line warriors. So that stuff's really neat too. I kind of like the alien invasion aspect of the Archons.
Yes.
So that's neat.
Well, it's been a long time coming. Like those books, they're almost 30 years old now, 25. 20,
right. They were came out in the first few years of Rifts, right? Yeah. And so no, it's really great to revisit it and to take another deep dive, 30 years later, and then say, okay. And then I was like, hey, Kevin, can we do this?
Yes. I love it.
So that's that, and that's one of them. That's to me, that's very rewarding. I really enjoy that.
Do you ever incorporate like things from your own games into your writings? Like just slip little Easter eggs in for your home groups and things like that?
I do. Nothing real huge so far. But yeah, I do that
because now you can do it for two companies.
Right. Yeah, no, I do enjoy slipping things in. I'm more of a pop culture reference type of guy. I think Kevin is too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so I do a lot of things like that. And it's funny because I remember I was talking to one of our guys, and he was like, oh man, once one of the people in my game realized that you made a reference to this metal band here, they started noticing all these different things, and stuff. So, but yeah, it is interesting though, because there are some things that, I think from my own home games have influenced different ideas here and there. Nice. For sure. There is a character I put in Empires of Humanity, which is a tribute to one of my buddies who sadly passed away. He was one of my first Rifts guys, and that we gamed a lot together. And so it was kind of a homage to him and his favorite kind of character.
You immortalized him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Tried.
That's cool though. Like I love stuff like that. I do stuff like that in my homebrew, world and things like that. Like I've ran my homebrew world for so many groups, and I've got statues in different places of their old characters. And every now and then, if they play in a future campaign, like I'll throw that in there, and they're like, "Oh, that was
right."
It's always fun. So we have a few more questions that came in. Raymond Gunn, is there any change to the submission rules or guidelines for either the Rifter or a book? You briefly touched on that.
There will be. So, guide. For both. So one of the big things is that, and I'm one of those guys, I don't want to just change something to change something.
Right.
So Palladium has been around for 40 years. And the reason it's still around 40 years later, sorry, haters. But, people love Palladium. But Kevin is, this is not an easy industry. If you take a look at the industry and canvas, how many of those companies are still around from 40 years ago, especially by the same owner? Not many. So no, Kevin has done an amazing job, and there are things that need to be updated here, but and I've learned a lot. I cut my teeth with Pinnacle, and they showed me the ropes, but I also took college. I've got a bachelor's in design and production. So I guess you'd say I come with a lot of opinions and ideas, but I really try and make sure that I carefully look at what's already there before we change anything.
Yeah.
And then Kevin and I discuss it, right? And Kevin's really cool about that. He's actually really great to work with, really open to ideas. And that's one of the things that we're really focused on. I'm really interested in is, as the creative director, putting together a writer's guide. And I also want to include, hey, this is, if you are coming to us, right, or we're coming to you, and we're going to have more standardized templates for different things. That's one of the things that I think is really great about working with Savage Worlds and with Shane and Simon. They had very clear expectations for different things. Yes. And as a writer, you get that from the beginning. It really helps inform your work and make sure that you have enough of this and enough of that, just kind of like a recipe. If you don't have the exact amount of salt and sugar to put in a pie or something, who knows what you're going to get, right? Yep. And so the other thing is Kevin does all types of stuff. A lot of books are organized in very different ways, but you can do that when, let's just be honest, you're kind of a game design and storytelling genius. Mm-hmm. So you want to introduce these different things for the maximum effect in a certain way. But for me, for instance, when working on Rifts for Savage Worlds, I like having a very set template.
Right. So someone who opens a brand new book and they want to see the new class or the new edges, they know exactly where to go.
Exactly. So when, for instance, if you open up Atlantis and the Demon Seas, and future books will, the three world books that we did are very close. The main difference is we moved, Simon and I talked about it, we moved the Gazetteer, which is kind of like a wet your whistle short story type thing.
Yep.
To the beginning of the book, much like Palladium Books, right?
I like that.
Palladium Books are that way, and then you get
hooks
into
you.
the character buildings. It hooks you. It
pulls
gets you excited. And if you want, you can flip 3 more pages, and you're in the character section. Yep. Here's your character options. Here's your edges. Right. Go past that. You're now in the gear section, and it, for instance, in Atlantis and the Demon Seas, I think there's a lot of value here because it's the player-facing gear. Mm-hmm. It's not all the gear that a Slugorth Power Lord might have intermixed with the other gear. But I think that's a really great way to organize it, because then you get into the Game Master section with new rules and things to consider. And then you get in the world book sections, and those each have the different foes and allies, enemies in that area, and adventure. So we want to be a little more structured in the future. Mm-hmm. And I think that'll be a lot easier for writers to be a part of. And with that, though, I'm really interested, Kevin's really interested in, let's let people, cut their teeth with the Rifter, and we'll take the best of the Rifter. And that's a great way for someone to show us, hey, yeah, let me give you a small, in video game design, you call it like a vertical slice.
Okay.
So let me give you a little bit of world building, a little bit of character option, a little bit of gear, maybe a monster or a hook, line, and sinker that's all themed together, maybe, right? This is one thing that I'm looking at. Yeah. And then we'll know, oh, well, the heck, this guy is good at this, and this. If he asks if he wants to do this, yeah, well, if it's a 96-page book, I want to spend this much on this and this much on this, could really help out, I think, in the future. Right. So that's something that, again, I'm very process and system oriented. And so, but I hope it'll help out, help inform fans and aspiring writers.
I think it's invaluable. I think it's something that is often overlooked, but like layout in books, I think is very important. Very important. I don't feel like the casual fan ever notices that, but that's a big deal.
Well, and the nice thing is too, is once you get used to it, you can crack open any book and you kind of flip between, this is the character section, kind of where those things are. And so I hopefully that will, I don't want to strong arm Kevin for us. So Kevin's going to go do a source book. Hey, Kev, have fun. But yeah, especially for me and other newer writers, I think that's going to be a really great tool.
Right. So another question. This one is from Brandon Verhalen.
Hey, what's up, Brandon?
Which book is most amazing when choosing from? England, NGR, or Japan? And why is it the NGR?
Well, let me tell you why England is no. It's NGR because I'm half German. No, I don't know. Those are some great books. And in Savage Rifts, you might all see them in one book. So, well, not Japan, but
right. I was gonna say that's not even in the
Japan,
same area.
England, and NGR maybe. But yeah, no, those are some of my favorites as well. It's fun. So funny. People are like, "Oh, you're a traitor. Why don't we have Savage Rifts England yet?" And this and the Chenku, and it's like, we're trying, man.
They want it all at once, man. Just
right. They want it all at once. Why don't you just give us everything all at once?
Stop sleeping and just write 24/7. Why are you doing this interview? Write a book.
No. That won't help.
Right. I know, right? Apollyon again. Of the Palladium books on the conveyor belt, are they all Rifts books, or are there any books from Beyond the Supernatural, Nightbane, Heroes Limited, etc. coming?
They're definitely not all Rifts. I'll just,
you
again,
said
I don't want to
earlier.
talk about specific titles. Yeah, one is definitely Beyond the Supernatural. Mm-hmm. There are a couple, Kevin's talked about some of these before, right? And you maybe even seen cover art. If you pick up the Rifter, you'll see a lot of different things that are coming. But they're definitely not all Rifts. Just like the Rifter, we're having to make very specific decisions here and there, for different reasons. But yeah, with the ones that are on the conveyor belt that I'm talking about, for me, right? Because the whole hope here is that we're refining things and processes, and I take the funny. So Wayne Smith, so he does a lot of layout.
Yes.
Well, I for Savage Rifts, I do all the layout. So and I mean, I have a degree in it, right? So that's something I can take a lot off his plate, but it also frees him up. So for instance, to prepare reprints, because sometimes if it's an older book, there's some work that needs to be done there, right?
Yeah.
Because it's in an old layout program or something, or getting hardbacks to the printers and things like that, the hardcover books. But then I'm taking stuff off his plate. That means he can take some more stuff off of Kevin's plate, right? And then I take some other stuff off Kevin's plate. And so the whole idea is that there's also going to be Kevin is going to be helping to push, that and other new books out as well.
You can put you guys are becoming agile and being able to focus resources where you need them more now that you have some overlap, it sounds like.
Right. So yeah, Kevin, this, and one of the things people may understand is, but this was premium was a big move because again, it enabled a lot of that. And of course there's spin up time where I need to learn Palladium and we're analyzing processes and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, I think this is, I mean, I think it's a good move. It's a great move. And that's why I'm here. Right. And I really want to be a part of this. But yeah, I think it's going to really be gangbusters. You guys will see over the next couple of years, and probably shorter. Right. Yeah. But especially in the next couple of years, there's be some really cool stuff. So
I'm so excited about it. Like I all the people who watch my channel know, like I've been pretty excited about the changes and everything. I can't wait, just to see what's going to happen. It's exciting. So when you're releasing a new product, okay, how do you decide if you, and maybe you don't think about this, but catering towards existing fans as opposed to trying to pull in new fans?
Yeah. We do think about that. I mean, I've only been here at Palladium for a few months, since September. But Kevin and I have been talking about this a lot for a while. So the funny thing is people may not know, Kevin actually talked to me about joining Palladium quite a while back. Before we made the announcement or anything. So we really made sure we were of one mind on a lot of things.
That's good.
And it was great. And it's also a concern, right, with Savage Rifts and Savage Worlds. I think it's a good thing to try and welcome as many people as you can, right, to the hobby. Good material is good for everybody, in my opinion. Broad-based market appeal, approachability of both narrative, rules, art, right? All those things are really important. And so I think those are all things to consider. And dialing those things in, making sure that the presentation is proper can really help as well. Yeah. I think that it's been really interesting with Savage Rifts. So one thing about Savage Rifts, it's interesting to see how much demand there is for these stories that Kevin's been writing for 40 years. It's my number one goal since I got involved and wrote Empires of Humanity and worked on the revised edition of Savage Rifts. My number one goal is to be as faithful to the source material as possible.
Yeah.
But we've got new art, we've got a new rules system, the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, and mechanics and different things like that, making the adventure material very approachable and easy to use. So easy to use that it almost doesn't matter what system you're using. So in my opinion, those are the things that Kevin and I have talked about. Those are the things we really want to hit on too, as we move forward for Palladium, is to make sure that, again, the entire experience is as approachable as possible. Right. And you can't, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Right.
but at the same time, so it's not like, it's so funny with books. Like every book is like an effort. Every
for
book,
sure.
right? It's a book.
Just finishing it.
Right. So it's just so funny because it's like, well, I know I'm making a lot of progress, but it feels like I want to get this book out the door, and so, but these things, it's incremental, right? Until it isn't, and then you kind of leap forward a lot of times. So just keep your eyes open, but we're trying to make sure that it is as approachable for everybody. Not just the old school gamers, but we don't want to obviously leave them behind or abandon them. I mean, that wouldn't be fair. And that's one of the number one reasons that, sure, the name of the game is getting a lot of these books that have maybe been a little log jammed, that have cover art and internal art and huge sections or all of it written essentially into layout and out the door. But at the same time, well, that's also keeping our promises as best we can to the existing customer base.
Yes.
So that's really important to me as well.
Very good answer. Very good. That was definitely my curveball for the night.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the hardest question you got.
So I'm going to shift gears a little. So we've talked briefly about, you have since you've moved from Texas to Michigan. One, how do you like the weather lately?
So Houston's freaking hot.
Yep.
And so I do like the weather. Now it just snowed yesterday for the first time. And so that was a little cold.
It snowed like Friday night, actually, in the middle of the night when you were probably sleeping.
Oh yeah, and maybe
at least over here in West Michigan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know if it had yet here, but I lived in Denver for a year.
Oh, okay.
I was stationed at Fort Meade in Maryland, outside Baltimore. I saw some snow there. I've seen some snow, but I kind of like Four Seasons. I like the change. Also, the Palladium studios and headquarters we're in a nice little area that has lots of trees, and it's outside the Detroit metro area, right? Out towards where I guess it gets more and more rural. I haven't done a lot of exploring yet, but yeah, no, I like the weather. I like the landscape and stuff, and people are pretty cool too so far.
Yeah, so. I like Southeastern Michigan a lot. Okay, so your home games. You said you have a Monday evening game you typically play. How many gaming groups are you part of right now, and what games are you guys playing?
Let me see.
And don't worry, you won't offend any of my viewers because I am a variety channel for the most part.
No. Yeah. So oddly enough, my Monday night game that I don't run, we used to switch off, and now I run. So I run Savage Rifts on Thursday nights.
Okay.
And
in person or online?
Online.
Okay.
Yeah, online. And then I play in so we're actually playing Forbidden Lands.
Okay.
On Monday nights, but we savaged it. We converted over to Savage Worlds. And when the new Pathfinder for Savage Worlds came out, we basically rebuilt our characters using those rules. And we got into it when it was still play testy.
Yeah.
And so that's been really fun because I've never played an extended hex crawl type campaign. If anyone's seen Forbidden Lands, it's a really cool game. Tuesday nights, as of basically when I came up here, right before I came up here too. So basically over the summer, I had to kind of bow out for a while. But Tuesday nights, I play 5e usually.
In all these games, what kind of characters are you playing?
Well, I run Savage Rifts, but for a little while, I actually asked a friend to find somebody who I'm now friends with to run the game. Okay. And I played a kind of a Tony Stark techno wizard. So in Savage Worlds, you can take Savage Rifts, you can take the rich edge. So you start off with a pile of cash and extra gear and stuff. And so, I was playing kind of like the Iron Man, Tony Stark guy, but with techno wizardry. And so that was a fun character. Then and he was also a true Atlantean because I wanted to test out that before, while I was working on Atlantis. And then, which actually was really pretty balanced because it didn't really affect his abilities as a techno wizard a lot. And then, let's see, Forbidden Lands. I actually play a character that, so with Savage Worlds, you can kind of mix and match with edges and stuff. So he was more of like a sneak around and shoot you with a bow and arrow woodsman tracker kind of guy. Like the whole character concept, he was like a scout in the Royal Army for the king or whatever. And then but now he's kind of on like the path to become the king. Actually,
that sounds cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
You're like the star of the show. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, right.
If you're the king, you kind of are like the lead character, right?
Well, that's just happened. So this is the weird thing that you say that, because last week that happened. It was kind of moving in that direction. So my idea was just the whole thing about Forbidden Lands. You can take over castles and territories and stuff like that, and or build them. Right. You can have different things like that. And so I was like, oh yeah, well maybe, but it's this area that Forbidden Lands have been cut off from the rest of human and elven dwarven civilization for a long time. So I said, yeah, this character, his family used to be part of a royal house in the Forbidden Lands, but it's been hundreds of years. He doesn't know what's going on. Right. And so, but yeah, it quickly turned into not just like, oh, there's some lands I might claim or a city. Mm-hmm. It's like someone last week just swore fealty to him as the king and the new king or whatever. And I'm like, what? Right. It felt kind of Dune that way. Like he's starting to turn into some sort of, I don't know, Quetzalcoatl or whatever, Paul Atreides type thing going on. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was like, that's
it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. My buddy game mastering it is doing like a really, really kick-ass job. So, nice. Let's see. Those are the things that I play the most often.
How do you what is your favorite type of character that,
Well,
do you gravitate towards something in particular? Like I gravitate towards martial classes when it's fantasy games. When it's like a tech-based game, I like the dudes with the guns, like big guns or, even just guns.
I don't know. Maybe it's part of I really like game systems and personnel or customization and stuff. Yeah. When I played Edge of the Empire, I played in a 2-year-long campaign of that. We played every week. It was amazing because everybody else that was playing were actors essentially, or had worked in the TV or film industry. So like everyone was just playing their character, impromptu acting. Right. So I was
basically like Critical Role.
Kind of like that, yeah. And so I joined the game and I was like, whoa, what is going on? And I quickly had to really nail down my character because I just wanted to play a tech specialist that was modifying equipment. And
I think of my build. I don't usually go the character route. I love roleplay. I love getting into that stuff. But when I'm building a character, I'm usually like, all right, I think of the mechanics first, personally.
Right.
And then I fill in the role, like the background. And
that's kind of where I was with that character. But Edge of the Empire is a really cool game and game system. And there are some things that I remember when I read it, I was like, that's dumb. And then we played it, I was like, that was amazing. That the obligation mechanic and stuff. Yeah. And that game has a really good system for customizing gear and vehicles and droids and all these different things. So I really dove into that. And I recently did play that Techno Wizard Tony Stark character. So in general, though, I would say I usually play like a martial character. Like I want to be a fighter or something like that. The 5e character I was running was a paladin. I think I have moved past where martial characters can sometimes be a little more boring depending on the game system. Yeah. So I do like to have a little bit more spice in there, but I'm way more, but I'm way more into, narrative in a lot of ways too. So, again, my 5e paladin was I forget what it's called, the Oathbreaker. And then I started leveling up in Warlock.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, I like that
to
mix.
go like, yeah. But my buddy was playing. He was playing his brother.
There's synergy
who
there
was
too
also
with
a
the charisma
paladin.
and everything.
There is a synergy if you can line it up right. But yeah, my buddy was playing. He was playing. There, we were both playing paladins that were brothers that were part of the same order.
Oh, nice.
But then that's where we split off, was we chose different focuses. So my dude went Oathbreaker, whatever it takes to defeat evil kind of thing. So, but yeah. I do like straight up combat.
Yeah.
So usually I have something like with the Techno Wizardry or with the gear character, the Outlaw Tech or whatever in Edge of the Empire, or with my character in Forbidden Lands. Yeah, they're all kind of some sort of martial character with other stuff. That's fun.
Yeah, I struggle to make like a skilled character. Like I like characters that can do something in combat. They don't have to be the best, but I want to be able to do something, I can't make a skill monkey. I can make someone who buffs other characters or whatever, but I always will gravitate towards someone who can hit hard rather than help you hit hard.
Yeah, I want to be able to directly engage in that portion of the game. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't need to be the leader doing like orders and talking things out. Like I'll let you do all that. Let me be the muscle. Like that's where I want to be.
Exactly. Yeah. So
excellent. So we do have some comments. CBK Ply says, I love Forbidden Lands. So I've never played Forbidden Lands. I've just seen it in passing on like Twitter and, things like that. And I've seen other people mention it. But yeah, I've never played that. How does that game work exactly? You said that's like a hex crawl. Is it like an old school game?
Yeah, it's kind of like an old school revival, although the rules aren't, I wouldn't say are very OSR.
Right.
They're not like D20 based or anything.
Yeah.
But no.
But it's influenced by the old school style, maybe?
Yeah. Okay. It's a more narrative. It's narrative focused, but it also has, you need to hunt for food and get supplies and things like that. And so it's kind of OSR in that you can die, right?
Right.
But you explore the map and you don't see it unless you're moving hexes and seeing things. And we have the revealed map that we're using, Roll20. Okay. So the map areas that we have revealed, we actually know kind of what's over here and what's over there. But no, we've never been there and no one's given us a map section, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't know exactly what's there.
Oh.
And you also explore each hex. So my character, again, he's really good at that. And so he was a scout. And so I actually found some in-game content towards the beginning of the map that I guess they assume you'll go back there later, but
right.
We ended up going and we had some choices on different adventures we could do. And we ended up basically going to like the very end of the game and like releasing one of the two creator gods accidentally, or not accidentally, it was actually very intentional, but you know what I mean? It was like, that wasn't our intention going there. Right. And so that's how my character kind of turned into this like Paul Atreides, Kwisatz Haderach kind of thing, because it influenced him and has changed him. Oh, but that's kind of a fun thing about a game like that, is you can discover different factions or different things that other people, I don't know, someone else could be playing it and totally miss that detail, right?
Right.
And maybe there's stuff that we walked past we didn't even know. I don't know.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's fun about it is what's in the books and what is our game master intertwining and mixing in, right?
You have no idea unless you.
I have no idea. So it's really, So unless I very intentionally went and read like 3 different lore books
right.
and setting books. So that's actually, I found that to be very fascinating from a design perspective too.
Yeah.
Is I really can't tell what's him and what's not, and it actually makes all of it more compelling, in my opinion.
It's funny because like I run a lot of modules on my channel in my streamed games and stuff, and for the longest time I was not comfortable running modules. Like for some reason I had it in my head that if I deviated, I'm going to mess up the lore. I'm going to mess something later on in the module, something like that. And then but recently I've been doing it more with my modules, just doing my own thing, and I feel like not only do I have more fun, it seems like sometimes my players have more fun. Because I'll add personal touches here and there, and I'll tie things to something that maybe they said, 6 sessions ago or something,
Right.
And now all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I figured this out, or, and it just makes it so much better. So
Yeah, I think so. That you know, a funny thing is I studied this, right, and one of my professors was he started working with TSR on AD&D, and he
oh,
had
wow.
done 80 tabletop products, including working on, he wrote a bunch of the expansions for Hero Quest, and then he went on to work in video games, including on Red Faction series of computer games and um, the Elder Scrolls Online even. And so he's just had all this breadth of knowledge, and just really interesting adventure design and module design.
Yeah.
Do you have like the hub and then the spoke, kind of wheel and spoke system, or hub and spoke system, or do you go from point to point? And you don't want to railroad people,
Right.
so you can have things diverge, but then eventually they've got to converge again, or else you can't even start to plan for all the different eventualities. And then there's things that, in my opinion, you just don't need to track.
Right.
And so that's one thing I worked really hard on with the Atlantis and the Demon Seas plot point campaign was to give you a good through line of you're participating in a slave rebellion against the Suborth.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole core of the adventure, and or the campaign, I should say. But at certain points, I stop and I say, hey, if you want to do this or this or this, this is a good time to do it in between kind of these parts of the big plot movements and actions. And so I feel like that is a way that you can have your cake and eat it too. And a good game master then can also roll with the punches if something happens a little differently in one adventure or another.
Right.
But yeah, you're just giving the game master very accessible major plot points to go from.
Yes.
And then let them kind of fill in between. I really enjoy writing those kind of adventures. So
I like that style.
Yeah. That's one of the things that Kevin is listening, right? A lot of fans of even Palladium Rifts are buying the Savage Rifts books just for that.
Yeah.
For the cool maps and the updates to the lore and then the adventure material. And so Kevin is paying attention to that, is really like the adventures that we've been putting out for Savage Rifts. And that's why he's been very genuinely excited about Terror on the Dark Frontier, along with me and Shane and the rest of the team. And so, I'm excited to see what people think about that too, because we're trying to find that nice balance that's easy to run, but you can also freeform and have fun with it.
So we have one more question, and this is from Raymond Gunn. Has Sean met all of the other writers, like Mark and Greg and Carl? I'm assuming he means at Palladium, obviously.
No, I haven't met all the other writers. I have had talks with quite a number of them, but I've only been here for. So just so you know, and Kevin mentioned this, he was invited to the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program that started literally the day I arrived.
So he's like, all right, you're in charge, gone.
Yeah. Well, he was like, it was pretty funny. But, and that's a big deal, but that's been really great because we already knew a lot of things we wanted to do for the future, but this is really helping us to hone our plans. And, because of that, it's been really busy, and I'm trying to figure out how everything runs. I'm signing all the grab bags every day. Kevin's planning out the grab bags every day. He really is like Santa. And then he's got that, and I'm, helping with a lot of that too, because it's a lot of high level decision making for the future of the company. And so I guess my long story short is no, I haven't talked to as many as I'd like to.
Yeah.
But I have had video chats with quite a few artists and writers already. So
do you know if like the freelancers and all that were informed of you being brought on before it was announced publicly, or do you know about that at all?
I know Kevin talked to a lot of them and asked a lot of people's opinions.
Okay.
So I mean, the interesting thing about books is, you might see a name in a book and who's still a current freelancer or whatever, right? I don't know who Kevin asked.
Okay, fair.
But yeah, I know he did talk to some guys, and they were like, oh, so everybody seems real positive about it.
I mean,
that
I was
I've
gonna
seen.
say you're there. Like,
Oh yeah,
nobody
yeah,
said
yeah,
anything
yeah.
too bad. No, that's
Yeah.
great. That's great. And then I don't know if we have others. Let me check Twitch. Nope, I think we're good on the questions. So with
Okay,
that,
cool beans.
yeah, is there anything you want to say in closing about whether it's Palladium? You know what's going to suck? I know I'm going to end the stream and then I'm going to have 1,000 questions pop in my head and they'll be my best questions. But, we'll just have to save those for another day. But is there anything you want to say about Palladium or even Savage Rifts before we go?
Well, I want to say that I really appreciate the fans. And I really appreciate the warm welcome I've gotten from Palladium fans that maybe had never heard of me prior to this, right? And I was working on Savage Rifts. It's a really interesting phenomena. Kevin and I noticed that, at least initially, there seemed to be some sort of rivalry between some of the Savage Rifts and Rifts fans. And I was like, yeah, just really surprised both of us because we're like, well, it's just all Rifts, right? But
people are loyal to their brands.
People are loyal. And I think that's the difference, right? And maybe some people, I don't know, it's like, well, yeah, Kevin intentionally licensed it to people he trusted, but anyways, but no, so I was a little, I don't know if I would say worried, but I thought, oh, there may be some people that, but no, everyone's been really positive. I've gotten really nice instant messages on Facebook. I've gotten seen really nice posts. I've gotten nice emails. And we read Kevin reads all the grab bags. I read a lot of them. And just people saying so many nice, positive things and excited about the future. So I want to say that to the fans that, hey, I really appreciate your faith and, let us know your ideas and things that you want, because we are listening. The other thing I will say is I really can't explain how much I appreciate all the people at both Palladium and Pinnacle. Great people to work with, great people with lots of great ideas. A lot of this is tough decisions when you're doing game design or when you're running a company. And
you won't make everyone happy. Like you can't for as many as possible, right? But you'll never make everyone happy. And you're a public figure, and there will be haters out there.
Oh yeah, sure, that's fine. They hate on me. That's cool. I'm really not worried about it. But I mean, I don't know, and it's just a random thing to say, but as a veteran, it's like you see what real conflict and war is, right? And it's like, this isn't a big deal.
Oh, you're mad that the art's different of this character over here. Oh, whatever. Like,
sorry, you're not dead. I'm not dead. You're not dead. Nobody got blown up. But good day. The other thing is, I would like to say, I think there's a perception that, and I think this is because of how it came up in the internet over time. I know Savage Worlds doesn't have quite the same perception, is that, you can't, talk about Palladium stuff openly on the internet or on your private blog or, on your YouTube channel or something, because the Palladium lawyers are going to come after you. And I think a lot of that's a big misunderstanding of what and I saw this. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, right? And so, don't reprint material from our books on your website, please. That's right. If there were people that had, negative things happen in the past, I think that's a lot of what was going on. But I remember you made a comment once about, I'd like to stat up Marvel heroes using Palladium limited rules. Do it. We don't mind. If you just I mean, for you, I would say, hey, mention that these are Marvel characters or DC characters, right? Say, these are Palladium rules, but I mean, we don't care.
So I've always been careful because, again, the rumors out there in the internet world.
Yeah.
And it was always like, you'll get a cease and desist. So I've always been careful about saying, well, this is how you would create like Cyclops or Wolverine or Batman or whatever, just because of that. Because I didn't want to rub anyone wrong at Palladium, and cause problems.
No, we don't mind. I mean, it's the funny thing is it's a different thing if you come, say, into the Palladium forums or the Savage Worlds forums and start, then you need to file the serial numbers off, right? Because, and that's so that we don't get in trouble, right? Or, cross anybody, or piss off someone that we might want to work with in the future.
Right.
It's
kind of hard to make that Marvel Heroes Unlimited product when it's all out there for free anyway.
Right. Or we pissed off the Marvel people. Right. So, but it's a different thing if it's a fan, fans doing those things like that themselves. So yeah, I guess that's the big thing. And the other thing is we promote a lot of stuff through the weekly update, a lot of different YouTube channels that have Palladium content and things like that. I really hope that fans, that's one of the big perceptions I like to change. We've got some plans on that. Right now, Christmas season's basically our super busy season of the year.
Yeah.
So a lot of different things like that, we've got to just kind of put that off a little bit. But that's one of those things that I'm hoping to clarify and help, update perceptions on things like that so that people understand that it's okay to share, to be fans of our content and share their homebrew stuff, right? And their personal ideas. Because just like with Savage Worlds is a generic system, Kevin always envisioned Palladium as a universal system that you could go between all these, and now Megaversal.
I was gonna say, you mean Megaversal, right?
Right, but he from the beginning he envisioned having a universal set of rules that you could play any of the different games with. Yeah, and so we definitely don't want to stymie that kind of things. It's just, hey, just please, keep in mind. I think with the early proliferation on the internet, there wasn't a lot of. I think that gamers were learning since learned to be a little more savvy about copyright material and stuff like that.
Right.
Not reprinting, material.
You can't take an ability out of the book, copy it, and paste it, just bloom all over the internet, and for the whole thing. You can't do that stuff. Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, hey, we're actually really pro that. That's why we have the Rifter. And again, Rifter's been running for over 20 years. And so I think we've got a decent track record of saying, hey, bring us your ideas. We want them to see print, even if it's not an official rule, right? Everything that we've got in this new Rifter is just, it's optional bonus material. Yeah. That's all of it's that way. And I will probably go that way in the future with most of it, the 99% of it, because, that way fans can get it out there. Other fans can give us their feedback. Right. I guess that's the main thing I want to say to fans though, is, please don't be afraid. If you have any questions, email us, and you can ask us about that, we'd love to see your material online. We'll help you promote it. We're looking at ways that we can do that a little more robustly or a little more clearly coordinate those things in the future. Again, we're always open to feedback, and we hope to see your stuff and maybe pay you a little bit of money for it for the Rifter.
I love it. Excellent. And it again, it's been said many times, if you're interested in trying to get a job somehow in the industry, the Rifter is a great entry point.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say that. I mean, before I ever even was in the industry myself. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is a good place to start.
A good
for
way
artists and writers.
Yes, it's a good way to kind of get your name out there and be like, yes, I've been published in a product that sells. So there you go, guys. Well, thanks again, Sean, and thank you for clearing that up too.
I mean, I love you guys, and I love the work you do and stuff. I don't want you to not have fun with it, right? So
when people get enthused about it, it's good to encourage the enthusiasm, So I appreciate that.
Exactly.
Excellent. So once again, guys, I am Juice. This was Master the Game. We interviewed Sean Roberson, and I just want to say Have a wonderful day, and game on.